Fame didn't arrive gently, it arrived with impossible standards. Deepika Padukone entered the film world with beauty, legacy, and expectation tied tightly together. The industry didn't test her potential slowly, it demanded instant excellence. Every debut step was measured against legends before she could breathe into her own identity. Grace became a demand instead of choice. Confidence became survival instead of personality. Success came early, but so did pressure. The spotlight didn't wait for emotional readiness. Applause felt loud, but protection felt thin. Growth happened under constant comparison. She learned quickly that visibility meant vulnerability. Stardom placed her on a pedestal that never felt stable. Early success created speed, but left little space for reflection. Every move forward was watched more closely than it was supported. Smiles can hide storms better than silence ever could. At the peak of her success, Deepika quietly faced depression while the world celebrated her triumphs. The contrast between the cheering crowd and the collapsing inner world was brutal. Strength was expected publicly while survival was fought privately. Productivity became mask instead of passion. Rest felt like weakness in a results-driven industry. Vulnerability felt dangerous in a world addicted to perfection. Healing had to be done quietly because collapse was not allowed publicly. Every appearance demanded energy she often had to borrow from resilience alone. The world saw glamour while exhaustion remained invisible. Stability had to be built in silence. Emotional pain stayed hidden behind flawless presentation. Recovery moved slowly while expectations kept moving fast. When your life belongs to the public, even love becomes performance. Deepika's relationships unfolded under relentless public gaze. Personal emotions became media property. Speculation replaced privacy. Support arrived mixed with pressure. Healing after heartbreak never happened off-camera. The heart learned to protect itself in front of millions. Emotional decisions became public debate. Trust had to fight intrusion daily. Even happiness was examined for authenticity. Personal life stopped being personal and became part of the brand. Love required courage under constant judgment. Affection often arrived with conditions attached. Silence in relationships became as necessary as honesty. Power in a woman is admired slowly and challenged instantly. Deepika's authority grew through years of discipline, success, and strategic silence. Every assertive step invited resistance before respect. Leadership was labeled attitude before it was accepted as confidence. Choice brought criticism faster than applause. Independence unsettled comfort-driven systems. Success demanded justification repeatedly. Equality arrived slower than expectations. Strength had to be proven again and again. Authority felt conditional in a space that favored control. Progress came with resistance attached. Every decision invited public interpretation. Strength often had to be explained instead of celebrated. Being globally known does not guarantee being emotionally understood. Deepika's presence became worldwide, but emotional space remained limited. Trust became selective. Stability felt fragile under constant visibility. Vulnerability demanded courage in a world that consumes weakness. Silence felt safer than explanation. Strength became routine instead of relief. The personal world had to stay guarded behind continuous performance. Public love felt loud but temporary. Emotional security had to be built away from cameras. The inner world demanded protection from the outer noise. Peace had to be created in private moments. Distance became a form of emotional safety. Sometimes the face opens every door but closes the real ones inside. Brad Pitt entered Hollywood wrapped in admiration before the industry fully tested his depth. Beauty became his first currency long before craft became his shield. The world labeled him a fantasy faster than it allowed him to become a serious actor. Early success locked expectations onto appearance instead of exploration. Roles arrived shaped by looks more than range. Respect for talent followed slowly behind loud appreciation for image. He had to work twice as hard to escape a label he never chose. Being admired came easily. Being trusted took years. The mirror followed him into every audition. The spotlight chased his face before it followed his effort. Growth required fighting the shadow of his own image daily. When the world watches constantly, the self begins to blur. Brad's rise pulled him into a level of fame that erased the ordinary shape of life. Privacy became rare currency rather than basic right. Every movement carried interpretation. Silence felt suspicious in a world addicted to explanation. His personal choices became public property. The line between man and myth slowly thinned. Identity was shaped as much by headlines as by self-reflection. The pressure to remain visible replaced the freedom to remain real. Normal life slipped further away with each success. Being known everywhere slowly made being known deeply more difficult. The public version of him grew louder than the private one. When love breaks under spotlight, the damage multiplies. Brad's relationships unfolded beneath relentless public obsession that never allowed quiet failure. Marriage became spectacle before it could remain shelter. Conflict turned into narrative. Private grief turned into open judgment. Emotional collapse had no private space to land. Healing had to compete with speculation at every step. Trust fractured under 1,000 outside voices. The heart tried to recover while the world demanded reaction. Every attempt at silence became headline material. Personal mistakes felt heavier under magnification. Even repair felt watched instead of supported. Success doesn't protect against collapse, it often accelerates it. Brad's internal battles grew quietly behind professional control. The pressure to remain strong never paused for emotional repairs. Discipline turned into a mask. Work turned into a distraction. Addiction slipped in during periods of silence rather than chaos. Public strength kept hiding private instability. Control became a survival strategy rather than a leadership trait. Vulnerability felt unsafe in a world that rewarded dominance. Recovery demanded the surrender of an image the world still admired. Balance had to be learned against years of excess. Healing became slow, deliberate, and unseen. Reinvention isn't applause, it is endurance. Brad's later career became less about surface admiration and more about internal reconstruction. Reinvention required patience instead of spectacle. Reflection replaced momentum. The past stayed heavy while the future demanded restraint. Aging challenged the version of him the world once worshipped without question. Legacy competed with regret quietly. The need to remain relevant fought the deeper need to remain whole. Success stopped feeling loud and started feeling measured. The spotlight softened but never fully disappeared. Survival shifted from image to integrity. The road forward demanded facing what fame once allowed him to hide.